Hello, welcome to ProBox TV. I'm Ricardo Celis. Boxing has always been in the middle of controversy, but what happened Saturday on the Barclays Center in Brooklyn, New York, it really blew my mind. Let's bring the ProBox expert here in ProBox TV. In the studio, we have Chris Algieri and Paulie Malignaggi. And we assume we have the trainer of the year, Robert Garcia. Chris, I will start with you. You were there in the Barclays Center. It was a knockdown or no knockdown in the 9th round?
Well, listen.
We're digging right in. We're not even
right into it. Right in.
Knockdown
right
or no
in.
knockdown, guys?
No question, you take a point. No question. I mean, you take
call it
a knee.
knockdown.
You call it a knockdown. Correct. Yeah. You take, or it's some type of penalty. You can't turn your back. This is professional fighting.
Yeah.
This is not the amateurs. You can't take a knee. You can't speak to the ref. You can't turn
definitely
your
can't
back.
call your own timeout.
You can't walk to the corner and then have your cornerman come up onto the
That was big.
That was bad. Okay. So think about the infractions that happen here. Number one, you take a knee, it's a knockdown. Number two, you turn your back, the fight's over. You don't want to fight. Number three, your corner comes up on the ring apron, you get disqualified. So all three of those infractions happened all at once, and there was zero penalty. So, in short answer, absolutely knockdown.
Paulie?
I thought of this, right, as I go back and think about it, and I love to hear, the panel's opinions as well. Obviously, we just heard the champ, Chris. I can't wait to hear Robert's opinion as well. But for me, as I thought more and more about what happened, I started thinking about other situations that might be similar. And the one that came up to my mind, because I'm old enough to remember, was Mayweather versus Carlos Famoso Hernandez. And when Mayweather hit him in the top of the head, when Mayweather had those bad hand issues early in his career, he actually did turn around, and took a knee, and the ref instantly counted. Yes. And so, that's what you do. And Mayweather didn't have offense to it. I remember Mayweather just took the count, and the fight continued, and he won the fight.
His only career knockdown.
Yeah, mind you, his only career knockdown, right? So technically, it's a knockdown. You have to do that. And also, then you think about, it was brought up to my attention another situation, Miguel Cotto against Antonio Margarito, the first fight. Miguel also, at a certain point, under duress, under pressure, obviously there's the issue that might have been loaded gloves there at that point. That's a different conversation. But nonetheless, what did Miguel do? At a certain point, he took a knee, and he was counted. So
I took a knee. I took a knee against Veronikov.
Yeah.
I went down in the first round. I broke my
Yes.
orbital, and he was coming on. I still couldn't see. I opted to take a knee, understanding
Why
I
did
was
you
going,
mention that?
understanding that I was going to lose a point.
That's
what
just
you
to
do.
take a small break, right?
Yeah.
Well, I couldn't see, so I needed time.
I'll tell you what, there were times I wish I could have taken a knee. My hair was all over my face in 2008. I wish I could have took a knee. Hey, ref, somebody tie this hair for me real quick, and then we can continue again. You don't get that luxury. It's protect yourself at all times. You don't get to call your own timeouts.
And if you do, you pay a penalty.
Yeah, if you do, you pay a penalty. And I want to hear Robert, because otherwise I'll just keep going.
Robert, we want to hear your opinion on what happened in the 9th round.
Well, look, I'm with you guys, man. There's no question that should have been an 8 count. The ref is a very professional ref. He's one of the best in the world, but he made a big mistake right there. He helped the star, and when you know who the star is and who you're protecting, you still have to be fair, man. You still have to be fair because Roach walked away with the draw, but he should have been champion right now. And even though they already promised him a rematch, they already told him, I'm pretty sure they already told him how much he's going to make in the rematch. He's still not a champion right now. And he should have, sometimes fighters prefer being a world champion than getting that big purse, because being a world champion is something special to them. And, even though Roach is already a world champion at 130, but moving up to being a two division champion, beating somebody like Tank is huge for him, for his career, for his family, for his trainer, for everybody.
And Robert,
I think that should have been a knockdown.
And Robert, having that scalp on your resume, that stays. You have that. You took Gervonta Davis's that would stay as well. So that leads to paydays later on, regardless. Because you have that win on your resume. I'm baffled. I'll tell you something else, and a lot of people haven't mentioned. And I also like Steve Willis. I know Steve Willis is not an amateur, man. He refereed some of my amateur fights. So this guy, he goes way back. Not only is he one of the best refs most of the time, he's also one of the most entertaining with his funny faces and everything.
Right.
I mean, he's a can't miss referee, and I personally like him, but I didn't expect him having this deer in the headlights issue here, because it wasn't just the knee. The knee, he knew he was counting. He started counting. And then he realized who he was counting, and he said, I'm not going to count anymore.
But that's the problem, Paulie.
Because
he starts counting. He starts counting.
So apparently, from what I saw, I read and saw from some interviews, Willis started counting, and then there's a ringside ref as well. So normally they start the count.
The timekeeper.
Right. They start the count from the ringside. And it's because the ref is dealing with whatever commotion could be happening. The count.
The guy you hear in the microphone.
Yes.
If
The count is occurring even though the referee is not actually fingering. So then they look at that. They look at the ringside ref to pick up the count.
Yeah.
Right.
They did not start the count either. Yeah. So it's not. I know we're all blaming Steve
But
Willis.
he started counting.
He did start counting.
Started
but
counting.
he started counting, and then he looked to the
Okay, so
ringside
everybody's
ref.
on it then.
This way it gets even worse. Now in New York, and Robert, I want to hear what you have to say about this. In New York, they have replay. You can do a replay in New York and go
but
back.
Get up to Lamont's corner to throw what's it called? That flag.
I think they have the replay on MMA, not boxing.
I thought they had it in New York as well.
No. I think it's only MMA, not boxing.
Can I mention another point nobody's talking about because they always talk about the knee? What about like a few rounds earlier when Gervonta clearly gives an on-purpose foul with his shoulder in the clinch? That's not an accidental foul. That's an on-purpose shoulder barge. That's an instant point because that's not accidental. And he does, not only does he not warn Davis for that on-purpose shoulder, which mind you shows you already Davis doesn't take a lot of stress for Davis to crack. Maybe this is why he's had a career full of gimmies in a lot of these fights. So he shoulder barges, and he not only doesn't he warn Gervonta or take a point for Gervonta, he warns Roach for retaliating. It's wild, dude. Like, it's like almost as if Davis didn't do anything there when it was a clear shoulder barge there. You notice that one, or we did live there? Robert, did you notice that one? That was crazy too. Nobody's talking about that one too.
No, I totally understand what you're saying, champ. But look, there's also the ref. When the ref comes to your locker room and tells you if your opponent hits you after the bell and you retaliate and you hit him, you're the one that's going to be penalized.
Yeah,
So
but you got to also warn the foul. You got to warn the original foul.
I understand the original foul came from Tank, but if Roach retaliated, then that's on him. That's what they always give you that warning. And going back to the instant replay, I was there for the rules meeting, and they did not mention no instant replay. So I don't think there was an instant replay for boxing. Like Ricardo said, it might be just for MMA because they didn't bring it up at the rules meeting. So I didn't expect them to have a instant replay.
Well, Robert, you dealt with the instant replay with Virgil's fight with Bohocek. They came back to him and actually added that knockdown because they went back for it. That was obviously not in New York, but I don't know why are we not using instant replay everywhere? It's 2025.
Just like they do in the NFL and in soccer, they'll find a way to ruin that too. Yeah. They'll find a way to make mistakes with that too. That's why. If you watch the NFL and soccer, they find ways to ruin the instant replay somehow. Well, go ahead.
I agree, Robert. With all those years that you've been as a trainer, have you ever helped your boxer in the middle of the round, get into the canvas and help the boxer? Like happened with Calvin Ford?
That's something that I've never seen before, and I have never expected to see something like that, especially on such a big fight like this. I don't even understand how Tank can believe that he could get away with timeout. I need to get my eyes wiped off because I have something in my eyes. That's actually ridiculous. I like Tank and Tank's a great fighter and I enjoy watching his fights. But him thinking, oh, let me take a knee, timeout, let me go get my eyes wiped off. It's ridiculous. It's actually embarrassing for boxing for the commission to allow that to happen and let it go like nothing happened. I think the fight should be turned around and should be a win for Roach.
Robert, I thought about this. It's really sneaky. It's a really sneaky idea. But I was thinking at the time, if I was Gervonta Davis, I would have said, there's something on his gloves. I have something in my eye. Because then he would have gotten a reprieve. He would have been able to wipe his eyes. Obviously he would be lying because there was nothing on Lamont's. But at that point, we wouldn't go through any of this. He'd be like, oh, he's something on his gloves, but something in my eye.
That's what happened with Muhammad Ali and Sonny Liston.
Yeah. I mean, there probably was something in his eye at that point. This one, there wasn't. But listen, if you're in a situation where you're under duress and you need some time, you can't do what Tank did. I mean, he obviously can.
Two of the judges had Davis winning that round, the ninth round. 10-9. See, it was Feldman and Marlinsky.
That's a 3-point swing.
That's a 3-point swing.
Exactly.
Yeah, and that's another reason why Roach probably deserves this victory, and he's probably got it robbed from him. That's 3 points on a card like that, on a fight like this, and a fight this close. That's a major swing.
Well, two judges had a 114-114, so all it would take was 1 point.
That's a major swing, of course. But I'll tell you what. Robert was mentioning, how could Gervonta Davis think about that? Because, we think like the way we fought, right? Like how we would never be able to think like that. I'll tell you what, when you've been getting away with what Gervonta Davis has gotten away with his whole career, constant minus 1,000 betting odds. And for all you degenerate gamblers or even not degenerate gamblers, you know how odds, what I'm saying when you talk about odds. This guy is in main events on pay-per-view. On average, he's minus 1,000 favorite. Like, it's a waste of time pay-per-view main event almost every single time with this guy. So when you get away with making fights like that and you get paid millions to do it, you got the world by the balls, bro. Where you going? Of course you can do anything you want. Why wouldn't you think? Everything you do is money. Like, they just throw it to you for doing nothing, just for breathing. Of course, why wouldn't you think? Why wouldn't you think you could get away with that? You guys been hitting nothing but nets since.
But Paulie,
the Bill Burr thing. When he's talking about Schwarzenegger, why wouldn't Schwarzenegger think he could get away with it? Why? It's the same analogy here. Why wouldn't Gervonta Davis think he could get away with it? He gets away with everything else.
But the excuse that he gave, that Gervonta Davis gave, it was that he had something on his hair.
Yes.
That it was.
Yeah, he had soul glow. I get it, but I had hair too.
Yeah, it happened to you in one of your fights.
What are you gonna do? I'm not able to take a knee. This happened to a lot of people. It's happened to Franchon Cruz. Remember Franchon Cruz, the girl? Her got messed up too.
Her hair up, yeah.
We don't get those excuses. What are you gonna do? But we don't have it like that either.
But the lady who made his hair, she said he's calling Gervonta a liar. See?
Yeah, that's the thing. Now you got a Ryan Garcia situation where you get caught with something, and instead of having a backbone and taking it, you just try to scapegoat other people, innocent people out of it. So Ryan Garcia did after he got caught with the PEDs in the Haney fight. He tried to scapegoat Scooter Honig, who's been one of the best in the business for decades, and now you see Davis trying to scapegoat this poor girl who's just makes a living doing hair. That's wild.
Robert, but what Steve Willis did, that referee, started the countdown and then make it reverse. I don't know what happened there, Robert.
He realized he was counting. He was giving Tank the 8 count.
Yeah,
right.
He thought, that's my problem. If that was Roach, he would have got counted. That's my problem. If that was Roach, he would have got counted. Because he started counting at Davis, then realized, oh, whoa, I'm counting Davis. I got to stop. But if that's Roach, that count continues. That's what's messed up.
It also happened after a combination from Roach. It
Correct.
wasn't in the
But it
middle
was
of
delayed.
no
But so are
action.
body shots.
Sure, it was a little delayed, but
so are body shots. So
well, hey, so are broken orbitals. When you get cracked in your eye, it's not immediate. It hits you after.
You get that little tingle.
Yeah.
But it should be a disqualification when he goes to his corner and asks for help from the cornerman.
I mean, if you went hard by the rules, then yes.
But with that, though, it's more so the referee losing control of the fight.
Okay.
And because you've been letting things get away from earlier. Like I said, earlier he already let him get away with the shoulder. So it's almost like you start losing control of the fight. And fighters, we're smart in there. We have all our instincts on point when we're fighting, especially at that level. You start to realize, okay, I can get away with a little more with this guy. You know what I mean? And you start to do that a little bit more. If you notice, once the referee loses control of a fight, things can sort of spin out of control. If you remember, it's Mayweather versus Zab Judah. The Zab Judah low blow. And then Mayweather, it's an intentional monster low blow. Roger Mayweather comes in the ring. Then Yoel Judah comes in the ring. It was almost an all-out melee. You know what I mean? And so, Richard Steele in that fight lost control of the fight. And so now what do? You have to disqualify everybody? What do you do here?
Or do you continue the fight?
Or you just say, I blew it. Okay, let's just continue like nothing happened. And that's sort of what I think Steve Willis ended up doing. He's like, all right, I've blown this whole thing here. Let me just let it continue.
Let me cut my losses and let this fight keep going.
Yeah.
Chris, you were there. How did you score the fight?
So it's funny. A lot of people are talking about this fight, and you get one of those situations where, the minus 1,600 underdog. It's like, well, if he even makes it to the end, he won, right? And then he actually boxed really well and was winning rounds. And that's like, oh, he definitely won. If you see everyone on social media like, man, Roach won that, definitely got robbed. Take away the knee, because listen, with the knee, you take a point. I got Lamont winning that fight. Without the point taken away, the way that it was, I thought Gervonta actually edged the fight. Lamont Roach, I kept saying it that night, right? But without the knee, I thought Tank won more.
If he
rounds.
doesn't take a knee, but if my aunt had balls, she'd be my uncle. So, but you know what I'm saying?
Listen, we're talking hypotheticals. And I was saying this immediately after the fight. Lamont, as good as he did, and as much praise as he's going to get, and he deserves it because he fought a fantastic fight with an excellent game plan. He's going to kick himself in the butt at those early rounds. Just not being a little more aggressive, not throwing a few more punches. Because, guys, did you see the punch out numbers? They were abysmal.
Come on with the punch stats. It's
You
the guy
watched the
playing
fight. It was
Nintendo.
abysmal.
Stop.
They didn't throw any punches.
Yeah, they didn't throw any punches. Okay, throwing
The
punches.
first 5 rounds
punches,
was a
I'll give
sparring
punches that
match.
credit for throwing punches. Because throwing punches, you can't blow the throwing punches part, but you definitely can blow the landed punches part. But, okay.
Robert, who you had winning the fight? How you scored the fight, Robert?
No, look, it was right after my fighter's fight, and we were actually going through a lot through the doctor, medicals, and all that, because of the way the fight went. So I wasn't scoring the fight. I didn't get to see the full fight completely round by round. So I cannot tell you guys how I had it scored. I just seen the last few rounds very close to the fight, and when the fight was called a draw, then right away the first thing that came to my mind was, well, if the ref would have done his job, Roach would have been champion right now. That's the way I could have scored it, but I wasn't watching round by round, scoring it as a
And Robert, you also had the
two.
fighter you were attending to who just fought. So,
Yeah.
I mean,
Right,
it's all,
right,
if you're
right,
not
right.
able to watch the
Exactly.
fight,
That's
we
why
can't expect you
he had to be checked by the
judge it.
doctor and all that. It was just unfortunate that I wasn't able to sit watching the fight round by round, because I couldn't have it scored like that. But at the end, the judges gave it a draw, thinking, okay, that should have been a knockdown. Then Roach should have been a champion.
Yeah.
Right,
Well, I'll
because
tell
the judges had it. Eric Malinsky had it 115-113 for Davis, and Glenn Feldman and Steve Weisfield had a tie, 114-114. We have to mention the BoxRec and judge card had a 117-111 for Roach, and AI judge, that now they're using the AI judge, Jabbar, he had a 115-113 for Roach also. So.
Yeah, I think mine's closer to I didn't score either, but I would think it was closer to 115, 113. I didn't see that fight as a
close, very
117,
close
111 fight. But again, I think that's more so people getting a little bit influenced because you think a guy who has no chance. But that's also because you're conditioned for this guy fighting constant no-hopers. So you think this is another no-hoper who's not going to do his job. So once he starts giving a little bit of trouble, all of a sudden you overcompensate. And that can happen too. But I will say, Roach fought a very, very good fight. He outfought. And I felt like he deserved it in a lot of ways because he also walked down the bigger guy. And there were a couple of morons in comment sections on my pages that I have to address, saying Roach is the bigger guy. No, he's not. Roach is the 130-pound champion. Gervonta Davis is only 35-pound champion. We don't count size by height, guys. Height doesn't matter.
I was there in the room. He looked bigger.
He does look bigger, but he's not. This is the 135-pound. If Gervonta Davis can fight at 130, he'd be at 130.
So what Roach was able to do that night, and it didn't come down to size. I mean, it definitely helps. He's a pretty good size lightweight. He belongs there. I don't think we're ever going to see.
Technical analysis is good because he's catching and shooting.
We're never going to see him at
He's
130
holding
again.
his ground. Go ahead.
I don't think. But Roach holding his ground is the main point. Not breaking position was the difference.
By catching and shooting, holding balance there. He was forcing
So-
Gervonta back.
No one punches with Tank. No one will stand and catch and shoot because he punches too hard. Tank generally moves guys with his punches, whether they land or they don't. He hits your body, hits your arm, he puts you off balance. Lamont never broke position, which is why he was able to counter so effectively. Those right hands, he was catching, shooting, rolling, firing, coming right back because his position was never broken. He had the balance, like you said, champ. He had his feet underneath him. Where generally guys that get hit by Tank, either they're afraid of him and they get flighty, or he's actually physically moving them because he is a powerful puncher.
Right.
Lamont was big enough, strong enough, smooth enough to be able to stand in the pocket. And on top of all those things, he was confident enough that these punches aren't going to affect me.
He did a very smart fight against
brilliant.
Tank Davis.
How powerful does he punch, though? Because during the telecast, they were comparing him to the highest knockout percentages in the sport. And then you look at the other guys on the list, and these are actually guys who fight real live bodies. And then this guy fights, again, minus 1,000 underdogs. Right. So are you punching that hard? Because I'll tell you what, Wilder in his prime, you couldn't catch and shoot him, bro. You had to make him miss or you were going to sleep. Beterbiev, even right now, you're not catching and shooting on Beterbiev, bro. If you stand there in the pocket consistently, you don't get out of the pocket, try to catch and shoot Beterbiev, you are going to sleep. The fact that a 130-pound champion was able to come up to 135 and catch and shoot and back up Davis the way he was also tells us that possibly Gervonta Davis' knockout ratio is a product of a lot of weak matchmaking. And going back, if your odds are consistently minus 1,000 or more, no, you're fighting opponents that are no-hopers in pay-per-view main events. You're stealing money, and this is why now the overcompensation happens. Because I don't think he lost the fight 9-3 like some of the people are saying here. I think it's a competitive fight nonetheless. But you're fighting no-hopers, dude. We don't want to see you fight no-hopers. There's a lightweight division full of talented guys. full of talented guys.
That's why
but this guy constantly avoids, mind you.
That's why he doesn't want to fight the top 5 on the light
So then why do we
division.
Why do we have to talk about him on pound for pound lists as hardest puncher in the sport? Dude? You make me look like a hard puncher too. I'll keep knocking those boxes off the table over there. Well, I can look like a hard puncher too if we do that.
Tank is
And I wasn't.
Tank is still a power puncher. Let's not take away what he's done. Because listen, knocking people out is knocking people out. You fought a bunch of, not a bunch, but you fought some no-hopers early in your career. You weren't like knocking them dead the way Tank knocks everybody dead. He's been doing it. He couldn't do it this past Saturday, but Hector Luis Garcia. He hit him to a point where he was like, I can't see.
130-pounder, and that guy took his money and went home.
We got to bring back Robert. Robert, what do you think about Lamont Roach?
A lot of that money goes a long way in DR. He took his money. He said, I don't need this. I'm going home. But then when you fight opponents like that,
But that guy fought to a split decision, lost to Lamont Roach. So the guy can fight. The guy can fight. Lamont beat him, okay, but he can fight.
Robert, what do you think about Lamont Roach, how he looked against Tank Davis?
I think Lamont Roach did a great job, man. Him and his training camp. I actually went up to them after the fight and said, you know what, congratulations. You guys proved me wrong. I thought you guys were gonna get knocked out. Because that's what, just like Paulie's saying, that's what everybody believes, because the right opponents have been in front of Tank.
Robert, if he had
the right opponents have been in front of Tank.
Robert,
that's just exactly what it is. You mentioned Hector Garcia. Hector Garcia did that in my gym 20 times about his eye. Oh, I can't see because of my eye.
See?
That was just his excuse to get out.
That's why we got Robert here. I'll tell you what, Robert, on paper, if he had any shot at all, I'll bet you all kinds of farmland he wouldn't have got that fight. Or if he had any shot on paper at all. On paper, this was an easy fight for Gervonta Davis, just like most of Gervonta Davis's fights are on paper an easy fight. I will bet you all kinds of farmland that he wouldn't have been anywhere near the conversation of getting the fight. That's why you got a lightweight division full of guys that never get a shot at this title.
Well, if that's the case, the matchmakers don't know what the hell they're looking at, because Lamont was not a good matchup. He's a counterpuncher. How do you make a counterpuncher look bad? You counterpunch him. You get two guys staring at each other.
Frank Martin was a counterpuncher too, but he didn't have the ball.
But Frank Martin was terrified. Frank Martin was terrified. He was beat before the fight.
Lamont's character is the bottom line.
Lamont has been confident this whole way through.
His character is the bottom line, because Lamont.
But also, he's a much deeper amateur background.
Yes, but again, it still builds character. Because here's the way I view boxing, in a small circle here. You got to have at least really fast hands or hit really hard. You gotta have something there as a basis point, okay, in order to get somewhere far. Lamont Roach doesn't have the ultra fast hands, and he doesn't hit really hard. But what he does have that he can make up for it is a high IQ and an understanding of it. And that probably comes from the teacher, because he comes from a boxing family. His father's his trainer, who's a very good trainer.
They have multiple national champions.
And that's what I'm saying. So the IQ played a big factor here. IQ and character, because then you have the IQ.
Also, fundamentals.
To execute it, well, the IQ comes from the IQ, right? The IQ coming together with the character. Because the IQ makes you realize, okay, I got to stand there and catch and shoot on this guy. Then you got to have the character to do that, because this guy's been knocking guys out. Right. You don't know if his power is real or fake until you get in the ring, right? So I thought character-wise was the difference in the fight. Gervonta's, as soon as he saw some adversity, he's trying to foul out of the fight already after a few rounds. While Roach is sticking to the plan wholeheartedly.
Seeing everything that happened over there at Barclays Center, Robert, can Roach take legal action against New York, against somebody there?
Well, look, Haney did, and he got his fight reversed into a no contest. So maybe he can if he really fights for it. But I think he's going to be more happy with just getting the rematch and getting a huge, way bigger payday. I think that's what's going to happen. But I wouldn't mind him, getting his decision turned, because I honestly think that he should have walked away as a world champion.
Chris, the rules are very clear, man. That should be a knockdown. If there was a knockdown, he should win that fight.
Yeah, absolutely. And I agree with you, Robert. In terms of the legal proceedings, I don't think that's going to hold not necessarily not hold any water, but I don't think it's going to go anywhere. It's going to cost money. It's going to take time. I think, listen, the rematch has to happen. But regardless, even if it doesn't, because Tank that night didn't seem like he wanted the rematch. He's kind of reversed that recently. But Lamont's going to get some big fights. He's going to get some big fights. He's going to get some big paydays.
Well, Shakur was already tweeting that he'd
fight.
Well,
Shakur and Lamont makes a tremendous amount of sense. I would not be surprised if Lamont got the Shakur fight next, if he does not get the rematch. But also, Robert, you made a fantastic point earlier, and this is the way that I feel too. Listen, being a world champion is more important than making money. Making money is important. We all want to make money. But Lamont Roach, where he's at in his career, and the kind of competitor that he is, I mean, I would care more about being a world champion and getting that victory over a Tank Davis, being a 2-division world champion. You're talking you're not going to Hall of Fame now. You beat Gervonta Davis. You're become a 2-division world champion. Yeah, I could be in the Hall of Fame one day. Right. That's really important for a guy.
Let's not get out of our head. Let's not. Gervonta Davis has not a single Hall of Famer on his resume. He's completely manufactured. Yeah, but you beat a manufactured champion. I think media-wise it's good, but Hall of Fame-wise. So
come on, dude. Look at the guys who are in the Hall of Fame now.
I get it.
So we talk about this all the time.
So doesn't really mean that much then. What I'm saying is Gervonta's. Forget about. I don't even want to talk about Gervonta's resume because I've talked about it. I've had enough of the resume. All right, the reason we're even having this conversation is so many layers deep. What's TC's tweets, Ricardo?
Terrence Crawford says, "I never seen someone take a knee and they don't count as a knockdown. Must have forgot the rules for tonight."
Voice of reason.
Of course, it's referring to Steve Willis.
And he's right. See, I mentioned Famoso, Hernandez, and Mayweather as well. But also go back and look at Cotto and Margarito. Cotto, at a certain point, took the knee. He got counted.
And Algeri Provodnikov.
Exactly. So the not just
we
the
all
rules,
know the rules, guys.
Yeah.
We're discussing something that we all know the rules.
Elementary,
and
it's basic. It's basic knowledge.
We all know the rules.
Especially Steve Willis. He knows the rules.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, Steve Willis started counting. He definitely knew the rules. He just realized who he was counting and he took it back.
Exactly what Robert said.
So, Robert, you would like to see a rematch between Tank Davis and Lamont Roach?
I wouldn't mind seeing the rematch. I think it's going to be a rematch that brings a lot of attention to the boxing world, to the fans, to the both fighters themselves. But it didn't seem like Tank was really happy about giving a rematch right away. I don't know. Maybe they'll force him to do it. Maybe they'll tell him if you don't do it, then we'll reverse the decision. I don't know. Something like that could happen. In boxing, you never know what's going to happen. But I would love to see the rematch.
Yeah, I think now, in a crazy way, it makes the rematch really, really juicy.
Yeah,
like this was a fight that I don't think many people were excited about. You know, it was a typical Tank minus 1,000. Actually, this was minus 1,600 favor going into the main event. Like it's, but now suddenly because of this controversy, it makes it really, really juicy. And there's a psychological part of this that Roach has to come in with. Now Roach comes in with a little fire behind him. Can you handle that kind of pressure? Where now you're expected. Before there was no expectation. So for Roach to come into the fight with no expectation and have that self-belief, now there's a little bit more pressure when more people believe in you. Tank has had that pressure and he's dealt with it in his career because he fights no-hopers constantly, so he's expected to perform. But Roach all of a sudden comes into a situation where the first time there was nothing expected of him. Now, the second time, the psychology is different in camp. So I'm curious to see if Roach comes just as prepared because Roach is, obviously he's going to prepare, but psychologically, can you handle the pressure the same way? Tank came in as stank in this fight. But I got a feeling he's going to come in as Tank in the rematch. So will Roach be ready for that?
Roach has a lot more to lose. They do a rematch and Tank wins. Everyone's just going to be like, Tank and rough night. And it's gonna wipe away all the good that Roach did. So there's a lot of pressure on Roach in the rematch. Even if he does that,
can we stop with the minus 1,500 underdogs in the main events with this guy? Can we stop already?
Well, Paul, you know why they're not going to?
Because now they're going to.
You know why they're not going to?
What are we doing?
I'm gonna tell you right now. You know why they're not going to? I was there that night. That guy sells out. It doesn't matter. He can fight the dishwasher. It doesn't matter. The guy sells. I've never seen the Barclays. I have never seen the Barclays the way it was on Saturday night. I'm talking nothing was curtained off. Every seat, every rafter from the floor to the top, and standing room around. Sold out, 19,000 plus.
And then people wonder why boxing's dying in the West. Because you have this wimpy hero worship that you'll take your favorite hero against.
When's boxing dying on the West? Boxing's
great
right now. Boxing's great right now.
In the East,
Robert, back me up, man.
It's going to the Middle East. It's going to the Middle East for this reason, because they make the matchups there.
Boxing's back. We're a great place.
This week, okay?
Let's go.
Let's pretend it's not. All right.
Boxing's great.
It's because of things like this. We're just going to sell, so we're just going to keep making them against no-hopers if he gets away with beating Roach in the rematch. Okay, great. We didn't solve anything.
So, Chris, what's next for Tank? He's still the champion.
Rematch.
He stank until he fights good.
Rematch.
That's it. From now on, he stank. He's not Tank. He stank.
If there's not an immediate rematch, then Tank just don't want the fight. Which I wouldn't be surprised, because Robert, you said it. The uncomfortability I saw from Tank in the second half of that fight, that made me think, I'm like, he's not fighting this guy again. He's gonna get this win and move on, but he didn't get the win.
There was discomfort in the first few rounds. That shoulder barge, that's out of the ordinary, bro. Like that's frustration.
But also, so how much of that was it that he was off, and how much of that was the great game plan and ability that Lamont Roach has? So that's the real question.
Lamont Roach had a great game plan, executed very well.
Probably two things should be right at the same time.
High IQ, but I think Tank also got used to these no-hoper opponents thought that he just had another one in front of him, and this guy came to fight. This guy, the difference, I think Martin is physically more talented than Roach, but Roach is mentally very strong and higher IQ.
Did you notice a couple times when Roach got hit with some straight left hands down the middle? You know, he's getting a little marked up in the middle, getting with the nose. He would speak to himself. He would get hit with a good shot.
I gotta make a note. I gotta make a note too. Because he was holding his ground and countering. If you watch, there was one point where Tank landed a right hand and Roach came right back with a counter right hand. That means Tank is now so hesitant about what's coming back because Roach is holding his ground. But he's taking shots. He's taking something off the shot so he can reverse it to defense. And when you're starting to do that, you're breaking. You know what I mean? If you know, there was one replay where I remember Tank lands the left hand, and I'm like, dude, usually Tank lands the left hand, and you're not able to fire right back because you're usually hurt when you land a clean left. He lands a clean left hand. Instead of you watch that moment, and it's probably the way he's punching the rest of the time. He's so hesitant about Roach holding his ground and firing back that he's actually taking something off the punches just to score and getting out.
Counter punchers do that to power punchers. When you start making a power punch, I used to love fighting power punchers because once they miss, they start getting hesitant. Once you counter them, they start taking power off. They get smaller as the fight goes on.
Does that to anybody.
I was texting this morning with Gilberto Mendoza, the WBA president, and he mentioned that that rematch is going to be next for Tank and Lamont Roach. Robert, thank you very much, Robert, for being with us.
Gracias. Thank you for having me.
Thank you to Robert Garcia, Chris Algeri, Paulie Malignaggi. I'm Ricardo Celis. Remember, Lamont Roach will be with us this week here in ProBox TV, your boxing channel.